still about a month and a few days out before Benjamin Netanyahu addresses a joint session of Congress. And I'll explain that in a minute, why it's important that we say a joint session of Congress. We've got a new video from Prime Minister Netanyahu targeted at the American audience and the Biden administration. Guys, let's roll it.
When Secretary Blinken was recently here in Israel, we had a candid conversation. I said I deeply appreciated the support the U.S. has given Israel from the beginning of the war. But I also said something else. I said it's inconceivable that in the past few months, the administration has been withholding weapons and ammunition to Israel. Israel, America's closest ally, fighting for its life, fighting against Iran and our other common enemies. Secretary Blinken assured me that the administration is working day and night to remove these bottlenecks. I certainly hope that's the case. It should be the case. During World War II, Churchill told the United States, "Give us the tools, we'll do the job." And I say, give us the tools and we'll finish the job a lot faster.
So again, that video targeted at the United States audience, at the U.S. administration, just about a month before both leaders of Congress, Republican and Democrat, from the House and the Senate, invited Prime Minister Netanyahu for a joint address. That's where he comes to address Congress as a show of support for our ally Israel. And yet, at a time when Israel is in its greatest conflict in recent history, this is not like a 2-week conflict here. This has been ongoing since October 7th. And of course, we all are seeing what is bubbling up in the north in Israel with Hezbollah and that conflict, which is just kind of starting. A shooting match has started. And of course, there are areas that are completely evacuated in northern Israel. But that could go to a full-scale conflict. These are common enemies, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said.
This problem didn't start recently, and it wasn't started on Israel's side. From the beginning, when Joe Biden became president, if you recall, he completely ignored and snubbed Israel. He treated Bibi terribly. He refused to talk to him for months and months and months. And then there was pressure because it was looking so obvious and so bad. And let's face it, most Americans still support Israel. Just Biden administration was running towards its left. And so there was some pressure, and he met, but even when he met, it was very cold. He met with members of the opposition, or other people beforehand. I don't know if it was members of the opposition, but he certainly met with the president before he met with the prime minister, and the president was from a different party originally. He's not in the party now, he's the president. So this has been a long-standing thing. And the truth is, since the Obama-Biden administration, they started by demonizing Netanyahu specifically and his party, and they've been doing it all along. So this is the war. One would have hoped the horrific October 7th attacks would have ameliorated that. But instead what we see is that Biden really, they say one thing out of one side of their mouths and behave a different way in private. And that is, they say we support Israel. On the other hand, they have been withholding and pressuring and frankly extorting Israel all along. Now, in Israel, this is not primarily a political matter. It's a literal survival matter. And so, and not political survival, physical survival. And what happened, this is still a very traumatized society waging an ongoing war. And I'll just give an example of what that means, because just earlier today, not that long ago, I was meeting with a general who's also been a minister in the government, not in the current government, but we were talking about, he's now advising the government. And I asked him militarily, how much time does Israel need to really do what it needs to in Gaza? And he said, at least 3 years. We have to demilitarize Gaza. We have to take, at a minimum, take the fangs out, as he said, of the jaws of the tiger. And he said, that's 3 years. So the pressure, end it now, is destroying Israel's ability to just survive. And the Arab world, some Arab friends now, but the Arab anti-Israel world and the rest of the anti-Israel, Iran, they see it and it's strengthening them. So in desperation, Netanyahu did a video where he didn't yell at Biden. He paid him plenty of compliments, but he also did criticize him. I would say, frankly, very gently and diplomatically, considering the realities, what's at stake. And of course, the world exploded, and many of them blame Netanyahu. He is just trying to help his country survive.
The reports is that the White House is, quote, fuming over this. And they were supposed to be having a high-level talks with the Israelis in the White House on Thursday. That'd be tomorrow. But as a result of this, they've canceled that meeting. And one of the topics that was supposed to be discussed at this meeting was the Iranian threat. And as you heard referenced in that clip from Prime Minister Netanyahu, he is concerned about the Iranian threat and the bottleneck, as he described, of the weapons and munitions that is going to Israel. We know that Hezbollah is been called the crown jewel of the Iranian proxy groups. And now what you're seeing is the prime minister frustrated at the administration and the way that the relationship has been working. And it seems like he's fed up with that, going publicly with a social media post. It was first released on Twitter to an American audience and to the administration as well about this. And what you see is pushback now from the administration of having a high-level talk by punishing them, canceling it about the Iranian threat on Thursday.
There is division, especially amongst the Democrat Party, strong division with real, I mean, it's not just 2 or 3 Democrats anymore, offshoots. This is really, I think, as we said, it's starting to divide the Democrat Party and make it very difficult for the Biden administration and Democrats to play, on the one hand, pro-Israel, on the other hand, listen to the Israeli leaders say, hey, they say that they're pro-Israel, but they're not sending us the weapons that we need to replenish the stocks that we need to have the weapons that we need to finish this war against Hamas. That we are the U.S. #1 ally, that we fight common enemies that both want to destroy the United States and Israel, and yet you are not sending us the munitions we need. So this speech will be interesting because about a month away, July 24th, of course, I think you'll still see a lot of members of Congress there. It will be a very full room. But likely what we noticed is even in some video and during the break with like Jamie Raskin, is that there are members of Congress who never would have thought about not attending that meeting. They don't want to say they're going to be there. I think they will be, but I think it's because they've got a base of support that is that protest base, and they don't want to upset them when they return to their districts at the end of the summer.
The member of Congress that is most in the most precarious situation here is the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, because, yes, you're getting tweets like this, and we can put it up on the screen, as a response to the video from Prime Minister Netanyahu. This was from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She said, this man should not be addressing Congress. He is a war criminal and certainly has no regard for U.S. law, which explicitly designed to prevent U.S. weapons from facilitating human rights abuses. We understand she's going to say that. That's the Hamas caucus, as we call them. But what you're also starting to see is people like the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, break with the current leader of her party, whom she endorsed, who she has given a lot of aid to within, of helping him know the ropes. The Democrats hope that he is the next Speaker of the House. This is their guy. Now, Hakeem Jeffries has actually done a pretty good job when it comes to Israel. He showed support by being at a bipartisan at the vigil and rally they had in front of the U.S. Capitol.
The pressure on these leaders right now, the Democrat leaders, and Hakeem Jeffries, you wonder, how long it will be until he rescinds that invitation. I wonder if Chuck Schumer will rescind the invitation. I mean, he gave a speech that was very nasty about Netanyahu. Or does he use the speech to say, listen, I've been really tough on Netanyahu, so I'm going to let him come and speak, and we'll see what he has to say, both publicly and in meetings with us, about the support they need, and we'll decide if we're going to give it to them or not. I mean, you could play it that way, but you are giving Netanyahu, since the biggest stage in the United States, at a time, in the middle of the summer, right before they go on recess, to address not just the members of Congress, but the American people. And I think that the American people, for the most part, watching a bunch of Democrats protest that, most Americans are not the protesters in the streets.